Starfleet Academy was a starship simulator game developed by Interplay and released in 1997. Unfortunately, there is a new Star Trek show coming out with the same name, so this game may slowly become erased from time. But before that happens, I wanted to do a short retrospective. Now, an interesting thing about this game is who the game director was. A man named Brian Fargo, whom you may recognize as one of the executive producers of a little game called Fallout. In fact, Brian Fargo coined the name Fallout for the game series. This man was one of the heads of Interplay, but he also worked on Fallout 2, Wasteland 2, A Bard's Tale, and Wasteland 3. This game was led by some very talented and experienced developers. While I do not know the exact budget, it seems to have been well funded with the resources to hire a composer, famous movie stars, and in fact, they even pioneered a new green screen technology for motion capture. The Interplay public prospectus is available online if you would like to pour through their budget. The composer was Ron Jones, well known for doing the music of Star Trek The Next Generation, the music for Family Guy, DuckTales, Fairly Odd Parents, American Dad, and the 1988 Superman series. But what was really interesting about this game is that in the single player, there were live action cutscenes where you could choose what actions your character takes. Different actions would actually impact the plot of the game. Here's one of the early cutscenes.
Come in. Hi, Jana. Have a seat. So, what's up?
It's about Corin. He's out of control.
I've been worried about him too.
So the game was not just a starship simulator. You played as David Forrester, a cadet who acted as the captain and leader of the crew. The live action scenes were filmed with Peter Kluge, which I hope I'm saying that right, who had a short-lived television career appearing on some 1980s sitcoms. So in between the game missions, you would interact with the other cadets using point-and-click interface, and there was an overarching story of a bombing at the Academy, an extremist group, and an alien species known as the McClanty. But you also attempt to solve interpersonal issues between your squad. Depending on your choices, you can either get a good or a bad ending. The highlight of this game to many was the live-action scenes filmed by William Shatner, George Takei, and Walter Koenig. While looking pretty rough and pixelated by today's standards, it was pretty cool to see Kirk in our video game. With how great a lot of this seems, you're sure that it got excellent reviews and sold well, right? Well, unfortunately not. The game had some pretty serious issues, and while sales were not terrible, topping out at about 350,000, it fell short of other major titles of the same year. For example, in the year 97, Final Fantasy VII sold 4.9 million copies, Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue sold 3.9 million, and Mario Kart 64 sold 2.2 million. So, 1997 was a big year in video game history. We saw such titles as Diablo, Final Fantasy VII, Mario Kart 64, and Super Mario 64. There was also Need for Speed 2, Harvest Moon, Carmageddon, GoldenEye 64, Resident Evil, Fallout, Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, Riven, Tomb Raider 2, and Gran Turismo. Now most of these are console releases, but it was very easy for Starfleet Academy to get lost in the shuffle, especially since the PlayStation release was permanently shelved. I read through about 60 sources and I could not find the original retail price of the game. Maybe somebody watching knows for sure, but I would guess that it was between $40 and $50. Now, one odd thing I saw was a review of the game written in 1998 by a man who was very happy that the game was in the Kirk era and not the Next Generation, because TNG was too socially conscious and the women didn't wear short skirts. Wow, what a weirdo. But anyways, it was easy for this game to sort of get lost to time. In 3 years, its sequel, Klingon Academy, would get released, a game which I feel is superior in every way. However, we can't forget that for the better games to be made, the predecessors had to walk so they could run. Obviously, newer games will look better and have more content and run smoother, but that doesn't mean that the older games do not have any value to us today. Let's get into the nitty gritty. What was the reason this game was getting mostly 6s and 7s out of 10? Well, the major gripe that I see, especially when reviewing all the gaming magazines of the era, was that the flight model was all wrong. It felt more like Wing Commander, aka Pre-Star Citizen. Now, even as a 9-year-old, I knew something was wrong when the Enterprise A could whip around like a shuttlecraft. I mean, it made no sense at all. The combat felt more like fighter jets fighting than massive capital ships. Large battleships and cruisers typically do not need to face directly towards their enemies to fire, but all the ships in this game that you would control only had forward-facing weapons. If you were behind an enemy ship, they had torpedoes, they could hit you, but you could not do that. So it just felt sort of wrong. Klingon Academy somewhat solved this issue by having a gunnery chair able to shoot weapons in a 360-degree view around your vessel. Here's a short clip demonstrating this and also showing how the ship would automatically fly around your target. Some other complaints I noticed was that people did not like the live action scenes. They felt it was pointless and really didn't add much to the game. A few gaming magazines I saw said that the game's installation was too large and the game used too much RAM. Some people disliked having to have 4 CDs to install. What about me personally? What did I dislike about the game? Well, there was no checkpoints in the missions or saving your game. As a kid with a short attention span, I got very annoyed when I would lose a mission at the very end and have to start over. I also didn't like you could only have 8 total ships in the instant action game mode. One thing that always bugged me was that Federation phasers shot more like a disruptor bolt than a phaser beam, and the sound effects were wild. This may have been an engine limitation of the time period though. Also, the enemy AI was RAM crazy and could dodge way too many shots. Okay, so we were negative Nancy's or negative Tuvoks for a minute. What did this game do that was awesome? Well, a lot of care was taken in the modeling and look of the ships. For 1997, it looked pretty awesome. Check out the ship models and the textures. This might be a good time for me to remind you to please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks.
Phasers have been hit. We have 2 minutes of life support. Lower shields repaired.
Readying photon tubes.
Another cool thing about this game is that it gave you a lot of freedom in your missions, and it was very refreshing. It was cool seeing Shatner and Koenig and Takei reprise their roles for the last time. It was also neat how many ships they modeled and programmed into the game. There was Gorn, Federation, Klingon, Romulan, Tholian, and a few other new species as well as civilian freighters. They remade several famous Star Trek episodes into missions, including Balance of Terror, The Doomsday Machine, and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Honestly, for 1997, I felt this was a pretty sweet game, especially since I was sick to death of TIE Fighter and my joystick was gathering dust. So, what was the typical gameplay loop? You would accept a mission, spawn near a starbase, and have your objectives displayed. You would warp to the system, fulfill your objectives, return back to the starbase, and hail that you concluded your mission. What was cool was that you were the captain and had an actual crew on stations to do their task. If you took damage, you would go to the engineering console and assign repair priority. There was navigation, communications, ship's logs, and a science station, and you would use these in the course of your mission. It was the predecessor for Star Trek Bridge Commander. You could play the game from the captain's point of view or watch the game from the front of the ship. The ships were relatively varied. Klingon and Romulan ships could cloak. Romulan ships had powerful plasma torpedoes, and they had shuttlecrafts all the way to large capital ships. And different ships handled differently. They had different shield values and weapon loadouts. One thing I remember being unique was that the torpedo complement was limited. Once you used up all your torpedoes, that's it, so you had to make them count. Another cool thing was that warp nacelles could be blown off ships, disabling their warp drives. You could also tractor beam other vessels to tow them around or to keep them within your firing arcs. It's been a while since I've played through all the missions, but there appears to be 22. There's also multiplayer and an instant action game mode. Multiplayer was neat. It had a freighter game mode, dogfight, deathmatch, and galactic war. Really, a decent amount of content for your money. So, what is the point of this video? Is this a dead game that nobody plays or cares about anymore? Maybe, but I still think it's worth remembering our gaming roots. Did it have major issues? Yeah, but it's cool to know that it is part of gaming history when you learn about who the devs of this game were. So, if you've never played this game, it is for sale on Steam for $9.99 USD. Sometimes you may be able to get a little bit cheaper on a Steam sale. Multiplayer doesn't work anymore as far as I know, and I couldn't find any mods for this game to enhance or add content. There was an expansion pack called Chekhov's Lost Missions, but nobody really cares about that. So if you have an afternoon empty, this game is definitely worth a download and checking out. If nothing else, for the live action sequences with Kirk, Sulu, and Chekhov.
Request that you stop whining, Mark Kai. Freighter Kaizag, this is the U.S.
At this point in the video, there's not really a lot more to say about this game. So what I'm going to do is go back and play one of the missions, and maybe this will bring back some fond memories for those who used to watch or play this game.
Captain's log.
In this mission, you're supposed to protect some freighters and avoid some kind of full conflict with the Klingon Empire. I'm not sure.
Freighter Auriga in Beta Epsilon. It's being attacked by a Klingon bird of prey.
Course laid in, Captain. A Klingon bird of prey is attacking the freighter. Entering Beta Epsilon system. Captain, the bird of prey is moving to intercept us.
Upper shields have been hit.
Something funny I learned about this mission, it's actually timed, and based on when you complete the objectives, different things will happen. If you wait too long, you'll fail.
We've completed
Captain, something is warping into the system.
starboard shields repaired. Upper shields repaired. That shield system is damaged, Captain. Repair crews are working on it. Forward shields down to 50%. Forward shields down to 50%.
The speed at which these ships can
shields
maneuver
online.
around is so ridiculous. I don't know if you can see it in this video, but the bird of prey will actually dodge my phaser shots.
Starboard shields have been hit. Starboard shields down. Starboard shields are equipped, sir. That shield system is damaged, Captain. Repair crews are working on
The
it.
explosion radius of a ship you've defeated is so annoying. It always takes out whatever shield is facing the defeated enemy.
The warp
Entering the Epsilon system. The Klingon is moving to intercept us.
Captain Epsilon 4 reports they've been attacked by Klingons. Governor Ryan is taken prisoner and is being transported back to the command.
The D7 shields are down, and we are now able to transport Governor Ryan aboard.
The first 3 times I attempted this mission, I didn't realize that
We
Governor
have it.
Ryan
The
was
D7
actually
has
aboard
triggered
the
an
D7,
auto-destruct
so I just
sequence,
kept
Captain.
blowing it up and failing the mission, and I
Captain,
thought I just wasn't
I'm
going
receiving a
fast enough.
distress signal
Turns
from the
out
freighter
I'm supposed to
Drake
just
in Gamma
disable the
Epsilon.
ship's shields
It's being
and then beam
attacked
them
by a
off.
Klingon bird of prey.
Entering Gamma Epsilon system. A Klingon bird of prey is attacking the freighter. Captain, the bird of prey is moving to intercept us. Klingon bird of prey cloaking.
Our shields have been hit. That shield system is damaged, Captain. Repair crews are
Look how
working on
far I was, and that explosion still completely
it.
took
Our
out my
shields are critical,
shields.
sir. That shield system is damaged. Repair crews are working on it. Portside shields online. Lower shields have been hit. Forward shields online. Lower shields repaired. Forward shields are critical, sir. Forward shields are critical, sir.
How very honorable of him to just flee and run away as fast as he can.
Portside shields repaired.
Incoming message from Starfleet, Captain. Priority 2.
Open a channel.
USS Agincourt, this is Starfleet. A Romulan ship has just attacked the Federation research base on Pascal 2. The attack on Epsilon was just a diversion. Return to base immediately. Starfleet out.
Captain, I'm getting a transmission beamed on all channels from Klingon space.
On screen, Lieutenant.
I am Kumas. Governor
Hey,
of the
look at this. I
Hancock
mean, they
Province.
actually got an actor to put on full TNG
And hero
Klingon
of
makeup,
Kronos 4.
wear an outfit,
For years,
make a
we
little
have been
set.
forced to
This
endure
is pretty
the
cool.
treachery of the Federation colonists of Epsilon 4. Now they are arming rebels on the Klingon world of Inta. This will not be tolerated. I promise the Klingon people, we will have justice, or we will have blood.
Course laid in, Captain.
Hailing frequency open.
Mission accomplished.
You've done well, Cadet. The governor was saved, and so are the freighters. Your crew works well together, in spite of their occasional bickering. You did extraordinarily well. It was a nearly flawless mission. I have nothing but praise, but I've never been particularly good with praise.
Alright, well, this will pretty much do it for the video. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.